Good evening and welcome back to the question and answer series for Anash.org. Last week I mentioned that the Chidisharim writes one of the remozim of giving Chanukah geld and giving presents is because Ner Chanukah you put on the left side, and the pasuk says Ibesmoile oish v'chuvat. So that's a remus that you give money or you give presents. Chanukah, which is besmol, smoilo ish v'chuvat. Just wanted to mention that Rav Chaikin, the Rav of Lubavitch in Cleveland, wrote me that Reb Levi Yitzchak, the Rebbe's father, Reb Leivik, Lekita Levi Yitzchak, Lekitem, Umachini Echez, brings the same remus for giving Chanukah geld in presents. Question. I was by a wedding, and after the chuppah they realized that the two Adam were second cousins. Is this a problem, or you have to make over the kiddushin? The answer is that lekitchila we are makbet. There shouldn't be any relationship between the two Adam, and so will be also between the Adam and the Chos and Kala. No relation whatsoever. But in this case, you asked the question, which was second cousin, which a second cousin in Shulchan Aruch means shlishi b'shlishi, because two brothers is rishon b'rishon. That means that's number one. First cousins are shiny b'shiny, which is second cousins, the second generation. And the third generation, that means second cousins, that's shlishi b'shlishi. And by the evet, a shlishi b'shlishi by kiddushin is okay. So, of course, lekitchila, we make sure there shouldn't be any relationship between the Adam and the Chos and Kala, and the Adam between themselves, the witnesses. But if the two witnesses was second cousin, so by the evet, you don't have to make over the kiddushin. Question. This week, Friday, falls Asura B'Taivas. Do girls have to fast Asura B'Taivas? Until when? So, Asura B'Taivas is the only fast which could fall on Friday. And Asura B'Taivas is B'chlal a very strict fast. So to go to the question, do girls need to fast Asura B'Taivas? The answer is girls need to fast all the Tanaisim. All the 5 Tanaisim they have to fast. And the same will go also to women, which don't have any extraordinary problem. That means they're healthy, they're not pregnant, or they're not nursing. They have to fast all the Tanaisim. In Shulchan Aruch, there's no difference between a woman and a man. The only thing which is different is women which are pregnant or nursing, they could be lenient on other fasts except of Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av. So women and for sure girls has to fast all the fasts which is Tanas Sibur. If they have a condition, that's something else. Then they have to after off. But if they're regular, healthy, they have no problems, they have to fast. Now, till when do you fast? There's a machloikes hapoiskem if you fast till Tzesak Chuvim or earlier. Lamaise, the Shulchan Aruch paskens that we fast till Tzesak Chuvim. That means we do not eat before the Zman of Lukas Neiris. We fast in all the way till after Kabbalah Shabbos and after davening. So this year, Friday, we'll have to daven a little bit earlier mincha, because there's a Kriyas HaTorah. and you say Berches Kahanim, like you say by all the Tanas Tzibur, fast days by Mincha, you say Aneinu, but you don't say Tachten and Nefilas Apayim, and you don't say Avinu Malkeinu, because it's Erev Shabbos by Mincha. So again, this Friday, we'll have to daven earlier. We'll daven regular Mincha like it's a fast day, but you don't say Tachten and Nefilas Apayim, but all other things you do say, and then you daven Kabbalah Shabbos and Ma'ariv, and then you break the fast by the Seudah Shabbos. Now, it's kedai to daven really on time in order that you should be able to finish Ma'ariv Friday night before it begins 6 o'clock, because as you remember in the previous year, and we spoke that you don't make Kiddush between 6 and 7. So some poskim are lenient this Shabbos, this week, that you could make Kiddush, even regular Shabbos you don't make between 6 and 7. You could make Kiddush between 6 and 7 if it's Surah B'Tavis Friday. But by us we didn't see such a kula, so therefore we should daven right after Mincha, you daven Kabbalah Shabbos, and make sure to right away make Kiddush in order it should be before 6. Next question. Thursday night falls Nittel. What is the halachas of Nittel, and what is the pshat that we don't learn on Nittel? The whole world stands on Torah. How could it be that we should have an Indian not to learn on Nittel? So let's discuss a little bit the Indian of Nittel. Thursday night we hold Nittel. Nittel is brought down in the Rishonim already. What is Nittel? Nittel is, the Rebbe brings down, or Nittel means taking away. That means that's the day when Oise Ish was taken away. That means he was killed that time. That's one of the Girsuas. And or it could also mean Nittel in Roman. Nittel means he was born. So this is how, if it's Nittel taken away, that means Nittel is with a tof. If it's Nittel with a tes, so then it means Nittel Roman, because Natal. In any case, the Pashtatam, the reason why you don't learn Nittel is says in Sefer Tamim Menugam, in Sefer Matamim, the Rebbe brings those down in Shalch Menachem, that once upon a time the Jewish people were afraid to go out that night in the street. So they didn't go into shul, they didn't go out on the street. It was dangerous. So therefore, they made such a thing that you don't learn that night, so automatically you don't go in shul, to avoid all the dangerous things. So over there comes the minig that the night of Nittel we don't learn. And this says, this is also in other poskim and other svarim bring down this time. But in Hayom Yom, the Rebbe brings down from the Rebbe Rashab that the reason why we don't learn a Nittel is not shloi lohoisev chayes. You shouldn't give chayes the kedusha, which bepashtas means that since he learned by Rabbi Yochanan ben Parachia, so he learned Torah, so therefore we don't learn Torah, that the schiz of Torah shouldn't be meigen on him, because he also learned Torah. That's one of the pshotam which I saw people learn into the Rebbe Rashab's saying. But it could also be the Svarim right that it is a zman which is mayer a klippa, a tema, and therefore when you learn Torah you give energy to the klippa. So therefore this is what the Rebbe Rashab says that you shouldn't learn because you shouldn't be moisef chayes. So the time when we learn is from the shkia till chatzois alaylo. Some people stop from Tzesak Chuvim, but according to the Rebbe Rashab's saying that I don't like the frumo people, the Bocharam, which the 8 hours is there so important to learn, so we see it is from the Shkia till Chatzois Alaylo, till Chatzois you don't learn. It says in the Rigis Avoisam that if a person is Mekayim the Minig, it is a tikkun for all the Bittul Torahs of all year round. Just a nice anecdote, one of the Sforim writes that Nittel is abbreviation of Yidden Lehnen Nicht Heint. So, what do? We don't learn that night. The Poskim write that you also don't write Chiddush Torah. If you want to write a tshuva, if you want to write a bitter, you don't write Chiddush Torah. The same will go, you don't learn Misr, you don't learn Sifra Chassidus. Some say that Reb Hillel said that you could learn Sifra Chassidus, but the Rebbe, according to the Rebbe, you don't learn Sifra Chassidus either. You could read Sepira Tzadikim. And we see a lot of tzaddikim, which basically their minig was to read Sepira Tzadikim. It's interesting to note that Rabbi Yosel of Weinberg used to give a shir in Tanya every Motzei Shabbos on the radio. And if it fell nitl on Motzei Shabbos, he asked the Rebbe what to do. The Rebbe told him he should say Sepira Tzadikim. He should say stories of tzaddikim. So again, this is one thing which you could do, say Sepira Tzadikim. Regarding mitzvahs oina, the Rebbe writes that in Shulchan Menachem that if it's Lail Tefillah, there's no problem. If it's not Lail Tefillah, after Chatzois shouldn't be a problem. He explains the Darkei Chaim V'Shulam, which is Machmar even after Chatzois. He gives a tam. But it looks like the Rebbe himself is more lenient that after Chatzois there shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so we'll go next question. Is there a reward of writing, owning a Sefer Torah? For example, Olam Haba, etc. Olam Haba, yes, of course. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa. So if it's a mitzvah d'oraisa and you do a mitzvah d'oraisa, automatically you have Olam Haba. But it's interesting to note that the Shulchan Aruch, the Siman, Reish Ayin, in Yeredeya, is the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah. In the heading, which the Mechaber writes on that Siman, is Schar Mitzvahs Ksiva Sefer Torah. Now in the Mechaber we don't see any specific Schar, but it's interesting to note, he writes it on top, Schar Mitzvahs Ksiva Sefer Torah. But we do find that Mitzvahs Ksiva Sefer Torah has specific Schar. One of the things is the Chidisharim writes that it's as gila for a Riches Yomim, because the Mishnah says in Sechtes Ovos, Mar B'Torah, Mar B'Chaim, which he explains, Mar B'Torah, if you are adding on in Torah, means you're adding on in writing a Sefer Torah. Mar B'Chaim, you add on in life. That means it says gila for Riches Yomim. Other poskim say that there's gila for Riches Yomim because it says in Pasik, when it says in the Torah that the king, the Jewish king, should write a Sefer Torah, it says, L'man yarech yom ha'mamlachta hi yivona b'kerb Yisrael. So we see that writing a Sefer Torah is as gila for Riches Yomim. In other Sforim write that it's as gila for tikkun of all your sins, because the Arizal says when it says v'chol maseichu b'sefer nechtuvim, that means it's like when a person does a sin, it's written in a Sefer Torah. All his sins are written in a Sefer Torah. So when a person writes a Sefer Torah, that's a tikkun. He writes a new Sefer Torah, it's a tikkun to erase all his sins, which is written in the other Sefer Torah, which writes all his sins. Third thing which I saw was it says Gila for Ashiras, the Yalkid Mamloes in Parshas Devurim writes that the person is writes a Sefer Torah is as Gila for Ashiras because it says Hoin v'oishe b'vaisoi is a person that goes when somebody is Mekayim the Torah. Chazal write Kol Mekayim Sefer Torah b'vaisoi. There's a Gila for Ashiras Hoin v'oishe b'vaisoi. That's Ashiras, and he says it does not mean he's Mekayim the Torah physically, because that's for sure. But also when a person buys a Sefer Torah or writes a Sefer Torah, it's a Gila for Ashiras, and a person is Mavatal the mitzvahs Ksiv Sefer Torah. It is, you could get to Aniyas, that means you could become poor. Question. You mentioned last week, Shir, regarding not using Kalim for Negelvas and Mamachroinim. Not using Kalim that was used for Negelvas and Mamachroinim. You also mentioned preferable to use a broken Keli. Is this the reason why many do not use silver Kalim for Mamachroinim? Yes, that's the reason, because if it's a silver Kli, people will use it, and we are makbet not to use Kalim which was used for Mamachroinim or Negelwasser. Now let me just clarify one thing. There is a difference regarding Negelwasser and Mamachroinim, because in Negelwasser the Alter Rebbe writes in Shulchan Aruch that a person steps on Negelwasser, it is dangerous. And that does not say only when it's on the floor. It could be on something else too. So let's, for instance, if it spilled Negelwasser on something else, a person should not step on it. When it comes to Mamachroinim, the Alter Rebbe writes, the Riech Ru is shoyre only when the Mamachroinim is on the floor. So therefore, the people are makbet b'chalal not to wash Mamachroinim on the floor because it's askona, Riech Ru. So when it comes to Riech Ru on Mamachroinim, it's only on the floor. When it comes to Riech Ru and Negelwasser, it's all over. Nevertheless, we are still makbet that you shouldn't wash Mamachroinim on Kalim, because some poskim say that it is still a problem of Riech Ru. So when it comes to inyonim of skona, we try to go to all the poskim. But the Alter Rebbe specific is mashma that by regarding Mamachroinim, it's only when it's on the floor. Question. You stated in previous shir that front lace sheitlach is also because of maras ayin. After that, you stated that if it becomes widespread, it becomes mutter. It should have been stated clearly that it only becomes mutter if one actually starts seeing a recognizable difference between a sheitel and natural hair. Let me make it clear. And I thought I made it clear then, I'm going to make it clear again. Exactly what you wrote. Only if it becomes recognizable a difference between a sheitel and natural hair, only then it will be mutter. If it won't be recognizable, then it will stay osur. And not only that, if the companies will get more sophisticated and they will make beautiful sheitels more sophisticated, it should look more than hair, like as they advertised, that you won't see a difference between your hair and your sheitel, then it will be osur. So the only reason why it could become mutter is only if it will come a time then people will get used to it, and there will be a recognizable difference between a sheitel and natural hair. First of all, because of maras ayin. As I mentioned, the reason why we have a problem if it looks like hair, there's a maras ayin chshad, people will think that you're over of a isser, you're going with your own hair. And as long as there's not a recognizable difference between hair and a sheitel, it will be osur. And second of all, there's also a problem of hair, because one of the reasons why the Torah asert hair is because it brings up hair in people. Now when a person sees it's a sheitel, he doesn't have hair. Hair has a specific attraction, so people become hair that start thinking about it. So if the people will not get used to it and realize it's a sheitel and they will think it's hair, they have the problem of hair. So if I didn't make it clear yet, which I think I did make it clear, I'm going to state it now clearly. The only way when frontlay sheitlich will become mutter is only if eventually it will be recognizable difference between a sheitel and natural hair. And as long as it doesn't come to that stage, it is not mutter and it's usher to wear it, to go with it. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll join again you next week, Im Yirtz Hashem, and please send in the questions to our inbox at Anash.org. Good night and have a wonderful week. And the Rebbeinu Shalom shall help that this year, so the B'taivus should nishapach ve'en l'susan l'simcha, we shouldn't need to fast, and it should be a simcha, when Mashiach will come, and Meher v'yameinu mamash.